You know, in business, it feels like you're always caught between two things: spending money to make money and saving money just to stay afloat. But what if that's a false choice? Today, we're going to dig into how you can cut costs the smart way, not just to survive, but to build a leaner, stronger, more resilient company that's actually ready for real growth. Have you ever looked at your numbers and just felt like your profits are vanishing? Like there's a slow leak somewhere in the ship, but you just can't find it? If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. It's a huge source of anxiety for business owners. And as we're about to see, it's usually for a very good reason. Well, get this, because it's kind of shocking. Studies suggest that for a typical company, up to 30% of operating costs are just waste, pure waste. It happens for all kinds of reasons, subscriptions you forgot about, old processes that no one's updated, or just not paying close enough attention. But just think about that number. Nearly a third of the money going out the door could be going directly into growing your business instead. This isn't about finding a few bucks here and there. It's about a massive hidden opportunity right under your nose. And that brings us to the core idea, our mantra for today. The goal is simple: trim the fat, not the muscle. See, anybody can just slash a budget. That's easy. The real skill is being a surgeon, not a butcher, carefully cutting away the waste while fiercely protecting the muscle that actually powers your growth. Okay, so how do we actually do this? The whole idea of digging through every single expense can feel totally overwhelming, right? Like pure chaos. But don't worry, we're going to turn that chaos into control with a really simple but powerful plan. It really just comes down to these 4 steps. First, you analyze. Then you prioritize. Then you act. And finally, you review. And the key thing here is that this isn't a one-time thing you do when you're in trouble. It's a loop, a cycle that you repeat for long-term financial fitness. Let's break it down. All right, first up, you got to put on your detective hat. You absolutely cannot manage what you don't measure, period. So step 1 is a full-on financial audit. Pull up everything: your accounting software, your bank statements, every single credit card bill, and get a brutally honest, crystal clear picture of where every single dollar is going. Okay, once you have that big list, it's time for step 2, prioritize. This is where you actually separate the fat from the muscle. You're going to go through that list line by line and give every single expense a label. Is it essential? Like, we literally can't do business without this? Is it important but can be reduced? Or is it just plain non-essential? You got to be ruthless here. And now for step 3, the fun part, taking action. You start with the easiest wins, all those things you labeled non-essential. Just cancel them. Done. Then you move on to the can-be-reduced list. This is where you pick up the phone and negotiate with your suppliers. This is where you cancel those software licenses that nobody's even using. It's all about making smart, decisive moves. And last but definitely not least, step 4, review. Honestly, this might be the most important step of all, because it's what keeps you from backsliding. Managing costs isn't a panic button, it's a habit. So go ahead right now and put a recurring expense review in your calendar. A quarterly check-in is perfect. That's how you turn a one-time fix into a permanent strategy. All right, we've got the plan, but where do you actually look for these savings? Let's get tactical and open up the toolbox. So if you look at where the money typically goes in a business, a few big categories just pop right out. Payroll is almost always the biggest slice of the pie. Now, that doesn't mean you have to fire people. Not at all. It just means that optimizing how you use your team can have a huge impact. Same goes for marketing, rent, and tech. Think about it. A tiny 5% cut in a massive category like payroll is a way bigger win than getting rid of some small expense altogether. And speaking of payroll, let's talk about the structure of your team. Do you need someone for graphic design or bookkeeping for a full 40 hours every single week? Maybe not. That's where a freelance contractor can be a game changer. Sure, you might lose a little bit of that deep integration you get with a full-time employee, but you gain so much in flexibility and lower costs. It's about using the right tool for the job. Oh, and here's a big one we're all guilty of: software creep. We sign up for all these tools with the best of intentions, but then we forget about them. Just look at these pricing tiers. Are you really truly using all the bells and whistles on that enterprise plan? Or would the pro, or maybe even the basic plan, work just fine? Doing a simple audit to right-size your software plans can literally save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every single month. So let's just run through a quick checklist for your tech savings, okay? First, set a calendar reminder to audit every single subscription every single year. Look for different tools that basically do the same thing and consolidate them. And don't you dare be afraid to pick up the phone and negotiate, especially if you've been a customer for a long time. Oh, and here's an easy one. Always check if there's a discount for paying annually. It's pretty much free money. And hey, the savings don't stop with tech. Take a hard look at your marketing. Are you putting your money into the channels that are actually bringing you customers with a high return on investment? And what about operations? Simple moves like going paperless or letting people work from home can slash your overhead. And really, do you need a brand new desk when a refurbished one is half the price and works just as well? Okay, we've talked a lot about what to cut. But now, before we wrap up, we need to talk about the most important part of this whole thing. This is the guardrail that stops you from accidentally driving your business right off a cliff. Which leads to a really, really important question. When we get all excited about cutting costs, what are the things we absolutely have to protect? What are the true sacred cows in your business? The things you should never, ever touch? Right. These are the things you protect. This is the muscle. You never, ever cut corners on keeping your best people happy. You don't stop innovating on your core product or service. Slashing your customer support budget, that's just a recipe for disaster down the road. And in this day and age, skimping on cybersecurity or legal stuff is just asking for a crisis that'll cost way more than you could ever hope to save. And all of this, it brings us to a whole new way of thinking about this. We are not talking about panicked, short-sighted cost cutting. We're talking about strategic cost management. It's a continuous habit of making sure every single dollar you spend is working as hard as it possibly can to give you maximum value and fuel your long-term sustainable growth. Look, if you remember just one thing from all this, make it this. The smartest businesses don't just spend less, they spend smarter. The goal isn't to have the lowest expense report in town. The goal is to get the absolute most power out of every dollar you invest in your company. So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge, a question to get you started. Based on everything we just talked about, what's the one single expense you're going to pull up and reevaluate this week? Just one. Start there.